here are just some passages I found that actually are quite similar from both the Bible and the Quran, that kind of show how in their text women are seen as second-class citizens, and are subjugated by their male counterparts. So from Ephesians in the Bible, wives, submit yourself unto your husbands as unto the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife. And similarly in the Quran, to the male the equivalent of to female, which is of course in the area of inheritance. And also from the Quran, the notion of female sexuality is also held to be a negative and punishable thing, in my opinion, for what I've read. So the quote is, apologies, as for those of your women who are guilty of lewdness, call to witness four of you against them, and if they testify, and if they admit to what they've done, then confine them to their houses until death take them. Both these passages from the Quran and the Bible would show that women are weaker, perceived to be weaker. Obviously I'm a feminist, so I don't think that. But they're perceived to be weaker and they're perceived to be lesser than men. They were said, if you read passages of the Quran, it says that it's okay for a man to beat his wife. Which is down, basically, I think that the patriarchy in Islam is not necessarily directed by the Quran, it's actually by traditionally male scholars of Islam, and it's their interpretation of it. They interpret it to subjugate women.
The title today is not do Muslims treat women right, or do Christians treat women right, or do atheists treat women right, or does the West treat women right, or whatever. It's does Islam as an idea, as a spiritual teaching, treat women right. There is no difference of interpretations on these things. You'll find in the Muslim world there is a struggle to actually have an Islamic renaissance and against secular regimes in the Muslim world, and against a secular way of thinking in Egypt before Lord Cromer, as the feminists know about this, Lord Cromer, the British colonialist, and in being Irish you know all about British colonialism, unfortunately, how they improved things. The Lord Cromer went to Egypt and he sacked women from being female doctors, and women could no longer retain their property after marriage. Women lost rights when Britain came, because he equalised it to British law at the time. So we actually were affected by this. The Muslim world is now operating off a kind of Victorian era understanding of male and female roles, and that's thanks to colonialism, nothing to do with Islam. She's mentioned about the Bible. Well, today's motion is that Islam, maybe next week's motion can be, does Christianity treat women right? And you can defend that or not. As for the issue of inheritance, how is it that men only get half the inheritance of females? I think it should be obvious to you now, men are expected to be the breadwinners. The woman doesn't have to spend a single penny on herself or her children in the marriage. The man is obligated in Islam and expected to provide for the family, so obviously he has to be given somewhat more inheritance to achieve that. As for the issue of 4 witnesses, judgment against a woman guilty of lewdness or guilty of adultery, she's to be confined to her home. Yes, because if a male was guilty of lewdness, which needs 4 witnesses, it will be capital punishment. So I think women actually gets off better than the man. Now, this is not about Sharia today. It's not about the Sharia law and capital punishment. Whatever your issues about that, it's about how women are treated, and even in that situation, women are treated better than men. As for the issue of wife beating and so on, or some rough reference to the Quran about wife beating, in the Quran it doesn't say that you should go and beat your wife. What it says in the Quran, and what it says also in the Hadith, first the Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad said, do not beat your wives. And when some people who were dealing with wives who were breaking the law, unlike for women bringing their husbands to court, and the court can subject her husband to corporal punishment for rebelling and for not fulfilling his role as a husband, in Islam we didn't want to see women dragged into Islamic courts and corporally punished in public. So it was at the discretion of the husband, subject to limits, subject to restrictions, and if he went over those restrictions, he can be punished by the law court system. So in essence, Islam doesn't get involved in terms of what people do in their own homes, but if he steps over the limits and abuses his wife, then he will go to court and he can be corporally punished. Again, that's something else. So women, again, have it better. They're not dragged into public and subject to public humiliation by public punishment.